Welcome back to The Details in the Dungeon, the series where I break down the design of Zelda dungeons to see what makes them tick. This time we're diving into the Lakebed Temple from The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. The entrance to this temple is naturally flooded. The temple rests on the bottom of Lake Hylia. You swim down into this long tube that's kind of like swimming into the throat of a huge underwater monster. I like how it feels like you're going somewhere no humans have been in quite some time. The walls are lined with coral and plant life. The first enemies you see are these Bari, who will electrocute you on contact. I love how the camera pans up here to reveal the main entrance to the temple. They zoom in on this handle fixed to the ceiling. It's very important that you understand what it does, as this will be one of the main mechanics of this dungeon. So, before you enter, you must learn how to use them by jumping and hanging off them to open the main door. This first room has these cool stalactites hanging from the ceiling that require you to hit them with bomb arrows to make them fall and become platforms. I love this kind of design where the player can have an effect on the environment to physically change the room to make progress. It's kind of a shame that Midna decides to tell you this before you have a chance to figure it out yourself though. The enemies in here are called Helmosaurs and have metal shield armor on their front side. This requires some clever manoeuvring to take them out, but they will become much easier to defeat with an item that we find later on. This connecting room is kind of like a big donut. The camera shows us fast flowing water. This is the water temple after all, so you betcha we'll be manipulating some H2O. Oh, and he's a Lizalfos. He's kind of a chump. Shield bash him, slice him in the butt. Job done. Okay, so here is the main room of the temple. Get used to it because you'll be travelling through this one a bunch, especially if you don't know where you're going. There is a huge stairway in the middle that can be rotated by hanging off more of these yellow pull switches. I love the visual design of this room. It reminds me of Hogwarts in the way the staircase rotates. The chandelier makes it look quite ornate as well. The problem with this room is there isn't any intuitive way of knowing the direction you need to go. You can mess around with the stairway orientation and easily get turned around. After flipping the stairway a few times, you can access the dungeon map. You enter this room with some more stalactites and some climbable vines. This time they take the idea a step further with water jets that raise and lower the platforms you created with the bomb arrow. It's nothing mind-blowing, but adds a tiny bit of platforming challenge to the room. You find a key in this chest, and upon turning back you may notice this bridge that hints at more water manipulation to come. So you head back into the main stairway and go up and around. Use your key and you end up in the room above where you just were. A few stalactites and vines later and we're over the other side of this locked door. It's starting to feel like this dungeon is mostly about navigation and observing your surroundings to find a way forward. Random bombable rock. You may have noticed a lot of these recessed paths leading to doors. Also note we have a giant water wheel. Is it starting to make sense now? Yep, we're about to play with some water. You climb this spiral slope with some lovely watery looking tiles on the side. At the top is another yellow pull switch that opens the floodgates, and down the bottom is another one that opens a gate. You'll see what I mean now about the recessed paths acting as channels for the flowing water. Hey, these wheels are turning now. More environmental manipulation. Although kind of indirect, it's still pretty cool. Now you can see how we're above the room we were in earlier. I like this multi-level design that makes rooms different when entering them from somewhere else. It makes the dungeon feel less linear in some ways. It's all connected. We make it to this tunnel that requires us to don our iron boots. Hey, lucky we picked those up in the dungeon before this one, eh? There are a couple of side tunnels hiding treasures, but nothing exciting. After bombing this rock, we can make our way further in where we fight this shell blade. You're seafood now, buddy. We swim up to the surface and find ourselves in this suspiciously large round room. It's boss time. Or is it? This little dweeb isn't the boss, is it? Ha! What a weakling! Oh god, what is that monstrosity? It's a Deku Toad! Oh, so many babies! Take care of them with some frantic spin slashes, and then watch out for the shadow as this beast hangs from the ceiling. It will fall down and try and crush us, but rolling out of the way gives us an opportunity to make sushi out of its slimy tongue. Rinse and repeat until vanquished, and you're rewarded with the claw shot. It's like the hook shot, only you hold on to targets until you let go. Handy. Or, clawy? Use it to exit the room and we're faced with another Helmosaur. I love this enemy placement as you'll already have the claw shot equipped, so we'll likely use our new toy on pulling its face shield off, revealing its squishy body underneath, making short work of these foes from now on. In the next room we can use the claw shot again for a shortcut across the room. This thing is super useful. At this point in the dungeon you may want to check your map to reorient yourself and find where you need to go next. Find where the water is flowing from and rotate the stairs so it flows to the west side lower level. It's cool how you can use the claw shot to pull this side down as it is missing the yellow pull switch. Equipping the iron boots will stop us being washed away in the current, allowing us to claw our way onto the chandelier, where you will find a piece of heart, a fitting reward for such a glamorous secret. Follow the flow of water into the west corridor in the donut room. The water is now pushing the wheel, letting us through. That's a super cool use of water manipulation that makes a change from just changing the depth of the water like in previous water dungeons. This room is a bit tricky to navigate at the moment. The ceiling cog is not moving and the room is full of keys. Use the vines to claw your way across the room. After bombing some more rocks, we come across this little guy called a chew worm, encased in a bubble. A bomb arrow makes short work of his watery shield and he gets scared. It's adorable, but he needs to go. Use these platforms to make your way over the wall. I love how Link is using his ingenuity to overcome obstacles here. The next room has more of these guys, but again they're quick enough to dispatch with bomb arrows. You can see how the dungeon is symmetrical with another spiral room on the opposite side. They change it up with how you move about somewhat, which keeps things interesting. When you reach the top you can grab this chest with the compass in before you unleash more water when you pull the pull switch. Whee! I like how sliding down is a nice reward after fighting the enemies on the way up. If you follow the water to the right, you can make your way back into this room, which now has moving cogs thanks to the flow of water, making it a bit easier to cross, but as you can see I had considerable trouble hanging from these claw points, trying to fall onto the platform below, especially with those naughty keys. Eventually you make it into this room, which is a bit confusing if you're not sure where to go. You have to swim down and through some tunnels with a few rocks you have to bomb on the way. It's easy to get turned around, so use the minimap to aid you. I ended up in this tunnel that led me to the big chest of all things. With no way to access it from this way, I was forced to retreat with my flippers between my legs. At this point I checked the map for a while. It's surprising how useful it can be in dungeons like this. I found my way to this room above where the big chest is, and pulling a switch from above using the claw shot allowed me to descend onto the big chest Mission Impossible style. Really, that was worth all the frustration I felt going the wrong way earlier. It's such a cool moment. Upon making your way back to the main room, a cutscene plays showing you the now raised water level, giving us access to this locked door. Get your empty bottles ready because it's time for some pre-boss fairies. Who doesn't love a pre-boss fairy, eh? It gives you some peace of mind going into the fight that someone's got your back. We take a dive into this ominous hole, and again, who doesn't love an ominous hole? Slowly you sink deeper and deeper into the abyss before we're greeted by this gross tentacle with an eye bulging up its shaft to get a good look at you before retreating back into the pit. The music kicks in and Link stands at the ready as loads of tentacles extend out. The camera pans up and we see the gaping maw of Twilight aquatic Morpheel. Using the iron boots we can keep ourselves planted and use the claw shot to pull out the creepy eye as it moves through the tentacles. After a quick swipe at it, some bombfish will come after us. Ignore those and go straight for the eye. You can shield bash or claw shot the bombfish when they get too close, but try and avoid locking onto them when you target the eye. After a few hits, Morpheel will burst out of the sand and swim around the giant underwater chamber. Unequip the iron boots and swim up to its head. If you get too close, it will try and suck you in. Avoid this and you can claw onto its head and stab its eye a few times. It's easy to repeat this step, and before long Morpheel will crash into the wall and drain the water from the temple. Though, now that I think about it, I don't know where the water would go since we're already at the bottom of a lake. Best not think about these things, eh? And that's the end of Lakebed Temple. I think it did a pretty good job of differentiating itself from other water dungeons in the series, using the flow of water in cool ways instead of the annoying task of changing the water levels constantly. It's more linear than I remember, but if you get turned around it can easily become a slog. The visual design is very cool, and it really felt like I was in a damp and wet environment where years of water droplets formed stalactites, which incidentally were used in clever navigation puzzles. There were several satisfying moments, such as sliding down the waterway slopes and descending onto the big chest. The enemies were varied and the mini-boss was kind of cool, if not a little generic. I do like how useful the claw shot is in this dungeon, as well as the use of bomb arrows and the iron boots. Overall I think it's a very good dungeon. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.